I need you to listen carefully, because I didn't understand this until it was almost too late. I'm 82 years old. I've lived what most people would call a successful life, a stable career, a family, a house, respect. From the outside, everything looked right. But a few months ago, something happened that shook me in a way I never expected. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I had spent most of my life chasing something that doesn't actually exist. And the worst part? I didn't even know I was doing it. You see? For decades, I believed I understood life. I thought I had it figured out. I followed the rules. I made the right decisions. But here's what I didn't realize. Understanding life and truly living it are two completely different things. And that's where everything changed. Because when that moment hit me, it wasn't gentle. It didn't come as a lesson. It came as a shock. A quiet, painful, undeniable truth. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I grew up in a time where life was simple, or at least it seemed that way. You studied hard, you found a stable job, you got married, you built a life. That was the formula, and I followed it perfectly. I worked as an accountant for nearly 40 years. Same office, same routine, same predictable days. I woke up early, wore the same kind of suits, drank the same coffee. And I told myself, I'll be happy when I retire. That was my belief. Everything I did was for later. Later I'll rest. Later I'll enjoy life. Later I'll spend more time with my family. But here's what I didn't realize. Later has a way of never arriving the way you imagine. I had a wife, a kind woman who loved deeply. She would often say, "Let's take a trip, just a small one." And I'd respond, "Not now, I'm busy. We'll go when things settle down." But things never settled down. There was always something, a deadline, a bill, a responsibility, and slowly, those small moments we could have lived just slipped away. My children grew up the same way. I provided for them. I gave them a roof, an education, everything they needed. But I wasn't really there. I missed games. I missed conversations. I missed the little things that at the time didn't seem important because I believed something dangerous. I'll make up for it later. And that belief shaped my entire life. Years passed quickly, faster than I expected. My wife got quieter over time. My children became adults. The house became quieter. But I told myself, this is normal. This is life. And I kept going, working, planning, waiting, always waiting. And that's where everything started to go wrong, even though I couldn't see it yet. It happened on an ordinary day. No warning, no big event, just a quiet moment, sitting alone in my living room. The house was silent, too silent, and for the first time, I felt it, an emptiness I couldn't ignore. But here's what I didn't realize. That emptiness had been building for years. I just never stopped long enough to notice it. I looked around the room, and everything was exactly how I had planned it. The house, the furniture, the comfort. But something was missing, not something physical, something deeper. And that's when it hit me. I had spent my entire life preparing to live, but never actually living. And that realization broke me. I remember picking up an old photo album that day. There was a picture of my wife smiling, younger, full of life. We were standing somewhere I barely remembered, and I thought to myself, when was the last time I made her smile like that? I couldn't answer. Because somewhere along the way, I had traded moments for plans, memories for security, and I thought that was the right thing to do. But here's the truth I couldn't escape. My wife had passed away a few years earlier, and I never gave her the later I promised. That moment, it crushed me, and it didn't stop there. A few weeks after that, my son visited me. We sat together, awkwardly, like strangers trying to reconnect. At one point, he said something simple, but it stayed with me. He said, "Dad, I wish we talked more when I was younger." That sentence, it cut deeper than anything else, because I knew he was right. I was there, but I wasn't present. I was working for their future, but missing their present. And suddenly, everything became clear. The success I chased didn't fill the space I thought it would. The stability I built didn't replace the moments I lost. And that's where everything changed, because for the first time in my life, I stopped. I truly stopped. And I asked myself a question I had avoided for decades. What was all this for? And I didn't like the answer. The truth is simple. Painfully simple. I was chasing something that doesn't exist. I thought happiness was waiting for me somewhere in the future, a future where everything would finally make sense, where I could finally relax, where I could finally live. But that future never came, because happiness doesn't live in later, it lives in now. And I spent most of my life ignoring that. But here's what I finally understood. Life isn't something you prepare for. It's something you experience. In the small conversations, in the quiet moments, in the time you choose to give to the people who matter. Not someday. Today. I started making small changes. At 82, yes, it sounds late, but it's not too late to feel something real. I began calling my children more often, not for long talks, just to hear their voices. I started going outside more, sitting in the sun, watching people walk by. Simple things, but they felt alive. And that's something I hadn't felt in a long time. Because for years, I was existing, not living. And once I saw that, everything shifted. Not dramatically, not instantly, but deeply, because I finally understood what I had missed, and what still remained. So let me ask you something. What are you waiting for? What is that later you keep telling yourself about? Is it when you have more money, more time, less stress? Because I thought the same way. And I was wrong. But here's what I didn't realize, and I hope you do before it's too late. Life doesn't pause for you to catch up. It keeps moving, and the moments you ignore today won't be there tomorrow. So look at your life, right now. Who have you been meaning to call? What have you been postponing? What are you telling yourself you'll do one day? Maybe that day is today. Because one day, you'll sit where I am, and you'll either feel peace or regret. And trust me, you don't want to realize this at 82. You want to realize it now.